Thank you. It really is true that I am the Nancy Drew professor. I'm aiming to be the Harry Potter professor. I think there's probably a more lucrative spot there than I've now got. But thank you, Glees, for that introduction. And I have to say, nothing could please me more than being here to be part of this celebration of the life and greatness of Abraham Lincoln. I always think that any time we come close to Lincoln, we share something in his greatness, and that's always uplifting for us. So we're here memorializing Lincoln, and I think memorializing things is one of the things that we human beings are particularly given to doing. I think it has something to do with the way we relate to time, which is going to be one of the themes of my talk. In any case, it was memorial events like this that prompted my reflections on the Gettysburg Address. Because starting in about the year 2002, I noticed how frequently memorializers of the events of 9/11 cited, recited, and quoted from the Gettysburg Address in their attempts to say something about that event. So I turned first of all to the Gettysburg Address as a way of trying to discover what the 9/11 memorializers were trying to find there, and to decide whether it was really appropriate to use the Gettysburg Address, use Lincoln in this way. So let me begin by just reminding you the Gettysburg Address was delivered 145 years ago, pretty much, roughly, in November of 1863, when Lincoln came to Gettysburg to dedicate the cemetery there in which lay the many, many Union soldiers who had fallen in that great battle of the summer before. Nonetheless, as you may recall, he admitted that he and his audience cannot dedicate, cannot consecrate, cannot hallow this ground. The dead themselves, he said, have consecrated it with their own dedication. The real task for Lincoln and the other mourners then is to dedicate themselves to the cause. As he said, it is for us the living rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far nobly advanced. So in the first instance, he meant, I think, a dedication to continuing and winning that war in which they had fallen. But the war itself, he says, is dedicated to the cause of the nation and its form of governance. So instead of, or in addition to dedicating the ceremony, the cemetery, Lincoln calls for a dedication to the nation and the principles for which it stands. And as he indicates at the beginning of his address, that nation in turn was dedicated to a proposition, the proposition that was enunciated in the Declaration of Independence. The Gettysburg Address then in effect evokes and calls for a rededication to the proposition to which the Declaration of Independence originally dedicated the nation. So the Gettysburg Address, one notices, is an ever-widening circle of dedications. One is like a Russian doll, one dedication inside another, culminating in the original dedication of our fathers in 1776. Now Lincoln, in this way, I think, prefigured the action of the memorializers of 9/11. Just as they looked back to his speech at Gettysburg, so he looked back to Jefferson's words in the Declaration. These two statements, I think, the Declaration of Independence and the Gettysburg Address, are about as good statements as you'll find anywhere of what America is supposed to mean. And my task this evening is to, or this afternoon I should say, is an attempt to recapture and make explicit what Lincoln tells us that is via an interpretation of his address at Gettysburg. And at the end I want to reflect a little bit on the use of the Gettysburg Address in those 9/11 memorials. Now you may have noticed already that my text is longer than the entire Gettysburg Address. You might put that first slide on. It's up there somewhere. There we go. There it is. That's the whole Gettysburg Address, the total. I don't know how well you can read it, but I'm going to give you a better version of it later on. Is a remarkably short. It's a remarkably short speech. It's 10 sentences long, organized into 3 paragraphs and using only 272 words. So that's short. As has been noted by many previous readers, the 3 paragraphs embody a kind of temporal ordering. The address begins, if you can even see it, with what I think is the second most famous line in American literature, that line 77 years ago, which refers to the past, to the moment of birth of the nation. The second paragraph begins with the strongly contrasting word now. as opposed to the years ago of the first paragraph, and it speaks of the present, not of the past. The third paragraph, which begins with but, the third paragraph speaks of the future, of what we, the living, have as our task in the future. The address then, in its 3 brief paragraphs, moves from what our fathers did in the past through what we are doing in the present to what we must do in the future. But that movement in time has a certain unity to it, in that our task today and in the future is somehow connected to what our fathers did at the beginning. So let's look at it paragraph by paragraph, and if you could do the next slide. Here we go. Now, as you probably have yourselves said many times when teaching, it's at least, I think, the most commonly said thing about the beginning part of the Gettysburg Address, that Lincoln counts off 77 years from his moment of speaking, which takes him back to 1776, the year of the Declaration of Independence, which is the text that he quotes in his opening sentence. 1776 and the Declaration of Independence marks for Lincoln the beginning of the nation, not as some would have it, 1788, the year of the Constitution, or 1620, the year of the Pilgrims and the Mayflower Compact, or any other year that one might select out as particularly definitive. 1776 is the beginning of the nation, he thinks, because the nation is defined by its dedication to this particular proposition. That proposition was the basis, I should say, for the break with Britain in 1776, but not, let us say, for the politics established by the Puritans or by the Pilgrims or by the Quakers or the Virginia adventurers or any other of the putative founders of American communities. According to Lincoln, a nation is defined by dedication to something. These other foundings, American foundings indeed, were marked by a dedication to other aims than that captured by the proposition that all men are created equal. The Puritans, for example, were dedicated to creating a city on a hill based on the principles of Christian love. A noble goal, for sure, but not the founding dedication of the nation of which Lincoln is speaking. Now, the claim that all men are created equal is a notoriously ambiguous claim. It's even a controversial claim. We all know that cannot be literally true in all respects. We know in our bones that human beings differ from each other, are unequal morally, intellectually, physically, and so on. So what can Lincoln and other partisans of human equality, including Jefferson, have meant by it? Well, Lincoln is unmistakably quoting the Declaration of Independence here, and perhaps that earlier document can help clarify what he has in mind when he says all men are created equal. Can we have the next slide? Good. As I've indicated here, the sort of crucial paragraph of the Declaration lists out 6 self-evident truths, which are the key self-evident truths of the main argument of the Declaration. And these 6 truths turn out to be organized temporally, just as the Gettysburg Address is. They tell a certain story, and that is the story of the making of legitimate or just government. And that story has 3 parts or moments. Maybe you could do the next slide now. There we are. Man. All right. The 3 parts or moments are what I'm calling pre-political, the political, the moment of the making of government, and then the post-political, the moment of the decay or not collapse of government, but the deviation of it from its proper goal. The Americans are writing their declaration at that last moment, what I've called the post-political. That's their present, when the government that they're under has become oppressive and they resolve to throw it off and to make new government. But in order to show that they're justified in doing so, they must tell the story of the making of government in order to reveal the permissibility of unmaking it. That's basically what they're trying to do here. If government is made, then there must be a situation before government, that is a pre-political situation, which is what they speak of up there. To create a government, according to the Declaration of Independence, is to vest it with just powers, which is down there.